You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This variety 2025 edition of Behren Morton looks like compared to what we have most recently seen. Here's Coach McGuire.
I think the pace on his football is one of the biggest things. You know, I mean, he did a good job last year, but and I don't necessarily think he would tell you more than me about the movement and different things that he was having to do, how much it bothered him to do that. But like you just see a guy that's like, honestly, you see the guy that his ankle wasn't sprained in the first half against Oklahoma State, my very first year. That's what you see. You see a guy that is running around, feels great. The ball's coming out of his hand. He's got a really, really good feel for this offense. I think he and Mac have become really close and have great conversations of what we can do. And then he's also a guy that knows that he's got some really good football players around him and wants to take advantage of it.
If I were to ask you this question and force you to give me an answer, and it's a bit tricky with the opener that you've got, because if you had a tougher on-paper opponent, a Power 4 type team, you may give me a different answer. However, we're talking about things that we want to see, that we will be keying on and all that stuff. But if I'm forced to give you a result, or you're forced to give me a result, would you rather see Morton 21 of 24 and like 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, or him kind of be like, okay, and then the defense just be locked down, like no points, no yards, no nothing? Or would you rather see maybe UAPB gets 13 points, 10 points, you bust a coverage or something? If you're forced to choose, which one are you coming away going, that was good, I'm not really worried about the other?
I think that's a difficult one to answer because both of those things, or all of the above, I would believe could certainly progress quickly as you get into the year. And one of those is based more so in the trenches to me, that being the performance of the defense. And I'm really invested on seeing that just ball out, to use an industry term. But a clean day for Behren Morton, wouldn't mind seeing that at all, Chris, because I think some confidence for him early on would certainly be a good thing. And that's breaking news for anybody. You'd like to have a little confidence for any son of a gun, top man to last man on the totem pole, I guess, in week 1. But to see him kind of really have that, I don't know, a tidiness to his game and not have had some close to turnovers, or certainly not a turnover, would be a sight for sore eyes. There's no doubt. But I guess I'm just so invested at this point in seeing the defense rage. I'm going to have to choose that one. What would your answer be?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with some, if you're forced to choose, because that's probably 1 and 1A of the two dynamics. Yeah, you can pick individual players, or like you can get more specific as it relates to defense. But I mean, I think if we're being honest with ourselves, you really, how much number 2 is going to mean to you this season if you get to where you want to go. And you want to see, okay, he's a bit lighter, he's healthier. This is a bit of a different scheme, which may take a little bit too. We talked about this, the whole vertical choice game that they keep talking about, which it's like, okay, you do this, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm trying to read that if I'm the QB. And so sometimes there could be some hiccups there. But because I'm curious personally, how much does he trust his receivers on the 50-50 ball type stuff? Because I think he's going to be rearing back and throwing stuff deeper more often. And I don't think that they will view it as a 50-50 ball. I think they'll probably view it as an 80-20 type scenario. But how willing are you to heave some of those up, even if a guy's not necessarily open? Because Reggie and Caleb and Coy, they're all big enough to where they can go. So I am definitely keying on what that all looks like, not just this Saturday, but as we go here, because I think that's going to tell a large part of the story of the 2025 season.
No doubt. And I want to get to what is mandatory with what you're describing in just a minute, and the idea of scoring from far, which I'm into. That coming from Mac Leftwich. We'll get back to that in just a second. But Chris, I think maybe my answer is based in sort of some splitting hairs power ranking of things most vital to your championship contention. And I mean championship contention. And I'd probably say it is the defense at the very top of the list, that if it is not drastically different and to almost an elite level, you're not going to be in championship contention. To whereas I would say Behren Morton is incredibly important to that as well. But I would almost figure that if your defense was something to really account for, something, bordering on special, you could see a statistically, relatively modest season for a quarterback and still, I think, contend for some hardware if certain columns are the way you want them to be, like the one I already mentioned, say an interception or turnover column. But it's probably me splitting those kind of hairs of what I feel like has got to be most vital to actually putting you in the rarefied air of competing for a conference championship. And to me, number one on that list, I'm open to be persuaded, but so far it's just all about that defense being well beyond where it's been recently. First, today's episode brought to you by Rougiette. Boys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to get Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify brain stimulation and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in only 15 minutes. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. So head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege and use our code lockedoncollege to get 15% off today. That's rougiette.com/lockedoncollege, RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege, and use our promo code lockedoncollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information.
Yeah, you're putting way too much logic into this whole argument here, and it's ruining my question to you. But yeah, I don't and you're not ultimately learning big picture statements necessarily against UAPB. Sure. But to your point, yeah, I totally get it. I guess I just asked that just because we could play this card a variety of different ways, because I do think that you should be able to run the ball well. You should be able to do what you want schematically and be very vanilla in doing so, not have to pull out a lot of the wrinkles, win one-on-one matchups, all the things. But I am curious as to Beren's efficiency, game management, just how, and again, this is just because I know how important he's going to be this season. But defensively, I probably would go, okay, if you busted the coverage, or you gave up some stuff against UAPB, what's Arizona State going to do to you in Tempe on a Saturday night? I don't know, but
sure.
This is what we do in these early games. We all overreact, right? We all overreact.
Well, I'll wait to see what our reaction is like, and then grade it as over, appropriate, under. I don't know, but we may be right on the money with our reaction, Chris. You never know; we could be deadly accurate. We'll see, but I don't know if, from a quarterback standpoint, like where we're talking about the sloppiness in week one that Joey McGuire is describing, the last place you want to see that show up is at your quarterback's feet, with your guy and a dude like Behren Morton. So you definitely, regardless of like some prolific statistical day, you just don't want to see some, big meltdowns or breakdowns in communication, but that's maybe what you're most prone to in week one. Before we move on from the offense, go ahead.
Well, and that's the beauty. Okay, there's some negatives here, but that's the beauty of having a game like this to sort through it. Because Joey made it clear to point out, like, this is the only level of football that has no preseason game. Well, this one is, but it's like the third preseason game of the NFL. It's like eating a plate of broccoli. You just got to get through it and know that there's more fun, more meaningful times, on the horizon. But you just kind of got to get through it. And I'm not saying that this is like Saturday night will be like eating a plate of broccoli, but sometimes when you're presented with a a vegetable that may not be your favorite, you're like, man, I just need to suck it up and down it. It's medicine, and then you can bring me my dessert later and be good. But that's kind of, to get to Utah and get to meaningful football, you're going to have to get through these games, but you've got to use these to eliminate some of the hiccups, the personnel groups, the communication, the timing, the stuff. And you should be afforded that luxury with these first two games. Not everybody can always say that. And you may have thought that going into last year, and Abilene Christian had other ideas. So, that's the beauty of sports.
I think the vegetable analogy works. There will be a timer. It's like mom's already telling you got this long till dad comes home, and you know what's happening then. You better get that broccoli down. I enjoy broccoli, so that wouldn't have been any problem for me. Some other varieties, yeah.
Are you a cauliflower guy?
I'm down. Yeah. I mean, you pretty much put it in a pile, steam it and whatnot, or, I'm just rolling in it and like, it's fine.
This is why you look like you do and I look like I do. I mean, I can do asparagus. I can do green beans. I can do okra. I mean, I can even do some Brussels sprouts, but I'll never forget the timer analogy. I can never forget sitting on, I think it was on Oakton Road in Fort Worth, Texas, is a little tyke, and everybody left the table. I got my glass of milk, and I think I had some broccoli sitting there, and I thought there was nowhere to really hide it, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to take this broccoli and wad it up in my napkin and go hide it in the corner, in plain sight, mind you. I mean, it's just in plain sight. And then I walked in there, drank my milk. I was like, okay, I'm good to go. Well, you got to remember to go back and get the broccoli and kind of like do away with it so you don't get discovered. But I was clear for about an hour 10. And then
you were flying high.
and then the broccoli in the corner had revealed itself like, oh, okay, so you really didn't eat it. I don't know who put that there.
And the entire scheme began to unwind.
That was like 7 or 8 years old version of Chris. And, so anyway, you live and learn, right? But I still hate broccoli.
That's correct. And that's exactly what we're talking about with a tune-up like this in week 1. If you need to tune up for a broccoli scheme, you got to get started early on. I bet you'd be better at that now than you were first time around. And I hope that Texas Tech will say the same about weeks 2, 3, 4, and whatnot. And I don't know, man, it may be like being force-fed a vegetable or something you don't like, but I never remember being force-fed anything with 950 drones flying above my head. Electric affair set for us at Jones Stadium. And don't forget about the 1,000-piece going band from Raiderland. I'm circling back to tubas in a minute, but first I got to circle back to what I said I was going to circle back to a minute ago. That's what they want to do offensively. They're saying they want to do it. They believe they can do it with what is on the outside. Now it's up to number 2 to go do it. We're talking about scoring from far.